Now let's look at converting from fraction notation to decimal notation. A blank occurs if division leads to a repeating pattern of non-zero remainders. So that's going to be repeating decimal. A blank occurs if division leads to a remainder of 0. That would be terminating. Decimal. And we're going to be converting back and forth between fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions. And we're going to come up with some of these repeating decimals or terminating decimals. So now, the directions for this says convert to a decimal. Recall that the fraction bar also means to divide. So really what we have is a little mini division problem here. I have 17 divided by 16. So how many times is 16 going to 17? Well, it goes in one time. And I get 1. That looks kind of like a funny one. So in past lessons, we would have just said 7, or we would have said 1 remainder 1. But now that we know how to work with decimals, we're going to put in our decimal and a 0, bring down a 0. Your decimal goes back into your answer. Does 16 go into 10? No, it does not. So let's add another decimal, or another 0, and bring down another 0. Does 16 go into 100? Yes, it does. So if I rounded the 16 to 20, 20 I know goes into 100 5 times. So I'm wondering, instead of 5, I'm going to try a 6. Now, because I actually forgot, but I needed to put a 0 in there because 16 wouldn't go into 10. But now 16 will go into 100. Let's try 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 1, 6 plus 3. Subtract. Okay, I haven't terminated yet, so I brought down another 0. 16 goes into 40. Let's say 2 times. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 1 plus 1. Need another 0, so I can bring another 1 down. And I believe this goes in evenly 5 times. I sure hope so. Yes, it does. So 17/16 is the same thing as 1.0625. So really, any fraction is just a mini division problem. So now let's try one more. We'll skip this one, and let's do -5/6. So -5/6, don't worry about the negative, you just know that your answer is going to be negative. So we need 5 divided by 6. So I'm just going to go ahead and pencil in I know I'm going to need at least 1 0, because 6 goes into 5 0 times. 6 goes into 50, let's see here, 8 times. Subtract. Add a 0, bring down a 0. 6 goes into 20 3 times. Do we see a pattern here? What that tells me is I'm just going to keep on getting the same thing. 20 minus 18 goes in 3 times. 20 minus 18, and I'm just going to keep getting that over and over and over. What that tells me is my 3 repeats. So -5/6 is going to be the same thing as -0.83, and we put a repeating bar above the 3, and only the 3. The 8 doesn't repeat, only the 3. So -0.83 repeating. Now let's look at this problem that's combining a fraction with a decimal. So you either have to get both of the numbers as fractions or get both of the numbers as decimals. It's going to be easier, I think, to convert everything to decimals. So the first thing we're going to have to do is convert the 4/5 into a decimal. So I'm going to come over here off to the side, and I'm going to divide 4 divided by 5. I already know I'm going to need a decimal with a 0, at least 1 0 behind it. So I'm bringing my decimal up into my answer. 5 goes into 4 0 times. 5 goes into 40 an even number of 8 times. So this is actually a pretty easy division for me. So now my new problem is 0.8 times 16.625. So now I'm going to do that computation. 16.625 times 0.8. So 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 would be 20. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 2 would be 50. Look at all those zeros. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 5, so it would be 53. And 8 times 1 is 8, plus 5 is 13. Now remember, you have to have the same number of decimal places in your answer as you do in the problem. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 places. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4 places. So my answer is going to be 13.3, or 13 3/10. The next one, number 27, we're not going to solve the whole thing. I think you get the idea. But recall, I just want to review very quickly, when you have a mixed number, you're going to want to convert that to an improper fraction and then do your division. Or you can think of this as 8 and then divide your 7 divided by 8 and get the remainder of that decimal. Or like I said, you can actually do, instead of doing it that way, you could say 8 times 8 is 64 plus 7. So that would be 71 eighths, and then you could divide 71 divided by 8. Figure out what that is, and then set up your subtraction. So you could tackle that 2 different ways. It's just kind of up to you.